At 75, I made a decision I've come to deeply regret, giving up my car keys. It seemed like the responsible choice at the time, an inevitable step. But the reality of life without them, it changes everything. My family, they meant well. They told me I was slowing down, that it would be safer to let go, promising less stress and more peace of mind. I believed them. I truly thought I was doing the right thing, that I'd trade a little bit of independence for comfort. They encouraged it, assuring me I'd have all the help I needed. But once I did, I realized the reality was nothing like what I had imagined. Maybe you're thinking about this option for yourself, or for someone you love. Maybe you feel like it's the safest decision, or that it will make life easier. I know those feelings, because I felt them too. But before you take that step, I want to share 5 hard truths I wish someone had told me before I gave up my keys. Because the truth is, losing the ability to drive isn't just about convenience. It changes everything. Stay with me until the end, because some of these lessons might surprise you. And if you know someone considering this, my story might be exactly what they need to hear. I remember the exact moment the seed of doubt was planted. The moment I truly started to consider giving up my keys. It was a bustling Tuesday morning at the grocery store, a place I'd navigated hundreds of times. I was backing out of my parking spot, a little too quickly perhaps, when a car suddenly appeared, seemingly out of nowhere. I slammed on the brakes, my heart leaping into my throat. We didn't hit, not even a fender bender, but the sudden jolt, the close call, left me shaken. My hands were trembling on the wheel. My pride, which had always insisted I was perfectly capable, took a sharp blow. I saw the exasperated look on the other driver's face, a young woman, and felt a flush of embarrassment. Later that day, my daughter, Clara, called. She'd heard from someone who'd seen me. The conversation was gentle, but the message was clear. Mom, maybe it's time to think about making things a little easier. The fear wasn't just about crashing. It was the fear of losing control, of becoming a danger, of admitting I wasn't as sharp as I once was. That evening, Clara came over, her voice soft and reassuring as she sat across from me at the kitchen table. It's not about giving up, Mom, she'd said. It's about accepting help. We just want you to be safe, to have peace of mind. Think of all the stress you'll avoid. My son had echoed similar sentiments over the phone, talking about taxi services, ride-sharing, and how they'd always be there to take me wherever I needed to go. They meant well. I truly believe they did. They painted a picture of a calmer life, free from the worries of traffic or parking. And for a while, I believed them. I wanted to believe them. But even as I nodded, even as I started to agree, a quiet voice inside me whispered. It felt less like a choice I was making, and more like a decision that had already been made for me, gently but firmly. It was a tender moment, but beneath it, I could feel the subtle shift, the beginning of a profound loss I couldn't yet name. The truth is, the biggest shock wasn't the big, dramatic moment of handing over the keys. It was the slow, insidious drip of control slipping away afterward. Before, if I needed a specific type of flour for a recipe, I'd just hop in the car. Now, it was a negotiation. Clara, are you free this afternoon? I need to get to the store. Or, I suppose I can wait for the grocery delivery later this week. Suddenly, my day wasn't mine. My impulses, those small, spontaneous desires, a sudden craving for a particular book from the library, an unexpected urge to visit the garden center, were gone. Replaced by a mental calendar of who was available, when. I didn't realize how many small decisions relied on those keys until they were gone. The hook where I used to hang them now stood empty, a constant, silent reminder. I'd stand at the window, watching cars drive by, and feel a pang. My little world, once so expansive, was quietly, subtly, shrinking around me. And then came the nights, the quiet, stretching hours when the house was dark and my mind wouldn't rest. I'd lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, the silence, amplifying my thoughts. I realized my life was no longer truly my own. It was now dictated by the schedules and availability of others. The simple act of deciding when and where I went, that basic freedom I'd taken for granted my entire adult life, was gone. It wasn't just about going to the grocery store. It was about the fundamental feeling of being in charge. The hardest part was realizing that once you give up that independence, getting it back is almost impossible. You adapt, because you have to. You learn to fit into their system, but in the process, you start losing parts of yourself. So if you're considering giving up your keys, I ask you, truly ask yourself, are you ready to give up the small freedoms that make life yours? Because once they're gone, you'll miss them more than you ever thought possible. Hard truth 2. The unexpected isolation. When I first gave up my keys, my family, bless their hearts, promised it wouldn't change a thing. "We'll always be there to drive you, Mom." My daughter Clara would say, "You won't miss a thing." I believed them, and in the beginning, they tried. But life, as it always does, gets in the way. I remember looking at my kitchen calendar, a calendar that used to be filled with my own scrawled appointments and social engagements. Now it held only a few careful notations from Clara, for doctors or essential errands. Event after event, my book club, the senior choir practice, even just a spontaneous coffee with a friend, started to become a missed opportunity. They meant it then, that promise to always drive me, but life gets in the way. And suddenly, my once vibrant social calendar looked emptier and emptier. My weekly bridge game, a tradition for over 2 decades, became a distant memory. At first, my friends would offer to pick me up, but as the months went by, the invitations dwindled. "It's just too much trouble, Eleanor," one friend confessed gently. "We don't want to put you out." It wasn't their fault, really. I understood. It's hard to coordinate schedules, to add another stop to an already busy day. But the truth is, the longer I wasn't able to drive myself, the easier it became for me to fade from their daily lives. I was just out of sight, out of mind. I'd sit in my living room in the evenings, looking at the faded photo of my bridge club on the mantelpiece, remembering the laughter, the camaraderie. Now it was just quiet. Too quiet. The hardest part wasn't just missing out. It was the burden of asking. Every time I needed to go somewhere, whether it was for groceries or a doctor's appointment, I had to pick up the phone. My hand would hover over the dial pad, a knot forming in my stomach. I'd rehearse what I would say, how I would phrase it to sound like less of an inconvenience. I didn't want to be a burden. I didn't want to remind my children that I was here, waiting, needing a ride that might disrupt their plans. So often, I'd put the phone down, deciding that whatever it was, it could wait. Or, worse, that I didn't truly need it. This constant internal conflict between needing help and not wanting to be a bother chipped away at my pride, making me feel less capable, less independent, with every unmade call. And so, my world began to shrink. The familiar streets of my neighborhood, once an extension of my own freedom, now felt distant, unreachable without my car. I'd sit by the window in the middle of the day, watching cars drive by, each one a reminder of a life I was no longer fully a part of. The bustling local market, the library, even my favorite quiet park, they all became places I could only visit if someone else took me. It was like I was watching the world outside continue without me, a silent observer in my own home. My world used to be so big. Now it felt like it was just these 4 walls. The realization was stark. Giving up my keys didn't just mean less driving. It meant less living. This feeling of isolation is a very real consequence, and it's something many of us face. But it doesn't have to be the end of your social life. It's a challenge, yes, but it's one we can fight. If you're feeling this, if your world is starting to feel smaller, know that you're not alone. There are resources out there, community transport options, online groups, even just local walking clubs that can help. It requires effort, more effort than just hopping in your car, but it's worth it. If you're finding these insights valuable, please comment number 2 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos that might offer you support and new ideas. We're in this together. I started by taking small steps. One sunny afternoon, I decided to take the local bus to the park, a place I hadn't visited in months. The bus ride was a little intimidating at first, but once I got there, sitting on a bench, watching children play, feeling the sun on my face, a quiet sense of connection returned. It wasn't the same as driving there myself, no. It was different. but at least I was out, seeing faces, feeling the sun, feeling a part of something again. It was a small victory, a glimmer of connection in what had become a very quiet world. It reminded me that even without my keys, I still had a right to be out there, to connect, to simply exist in the larger world. Hard truth number 3 was about losing my sense of purpose. When I gave up driving, I thought it was just about getting around. I didn't realize I was also giving up a big part of asterisk why I got up in the morning. I used to spend a lot of time in my garage, not just parking the car, but tinkering, organizing, sometimes even small repairs. My tools were here, my workbench, the familiar scent of oil and sawdust. Now it's just boxes. Empty space. Each trip I made, whether to the hardware store for a specific bolt, or to the local craft fair to pick up supplies for my knitting club, or even just a quick run to the grocery store for that one ingredient, it wasn't just about the destination. Each trip was a small mission, a reason to get up and go, a tiny act of self-reliance that made my day feel full. And then there was my garden. Oh, how I loved my garden. It used to be my sanctuary, my pride and joy. I'd spend hours out there nurturing every plant, planting new beds. But a garden needs constant attention, and sometimes it needs a specific bag of soil, or a new type of fertilizer, or a replacement for a broken trowel. Before, I'd just hop in the car, drive to the nursery, and be back within the hour, covered in dirt and feeling utterly content. Now, my plants need me, but I can't just hop in the car for a bag of soil anymore. I have to wait for my daughter to have time, or try to remember to add it to a grocery delivery. What was once a spontaneous, joyful activity became a planned project for someone else to facilitate. It felt less like Sommermeistheim garden and more like a gentle reminder of what I couldn't do on my own. You see this wilted plant here? It's not just a plant. It's a symbol of that lost spontaneity, this feeling of dependence. It wasn't just about my hobbies. It seeped into everything, even the simplest things like making a meal. I prided myself on cooking for myself, trying new recipes, making my favorite dishes whenever the mood struck. But when the grocery store became a place I couldn't just go to, my meal planning changed. Now, I have to plan around grocery deliveries, or my daughter's schedule, or what's already in the pantry. If I suddenly craved a fresh fish or a specific kind of bread, it wasn't a quick trip. It was a careful negotiation, or a forgotten craving. I used to decide what I wanted, when I wanted it. Now it's a careful negotiation. It's a small thing, but it's a constant reminder that I'm not entirely in charge of my own sustenance anymore. That feeling of not being truly in charge, it weighs on you. After a while, you start to feel this emptiness. Not a physical hunger, but a void, where your daily responsibilities and small acts of purpose used to be. The days felt longer, stretched out, with nothing truly urgent or self-initiated to fill them. I've spoken to other seniors who've given up driving, and they describe the same thing. You see it in their eyes. That question of, what now? It's a quiet despair, a slow erosion of the self that comes when you no longer have those daily reasons to be active, to contribute, to feel needed, even by your own garden or your own stomach. I tried to pick up old hobbies. I have my books, my knitting needles, but even those felt different. I'd sit down to read, and my mind would wander. I'd pick up my yarn, but the joy of choosing a new pattern or picking up a new skein of wool from the shop, that was gone. The purpose of acquiring new books or yarn was diminished without the freedom to just go out and browse. It's not just the driving, it's the ripple effect on everything else. It takes away the motivation, that spark that makes you want to create or learn or explore. You start to feel restless, unfulfilled, constantly seeking something you can't quite grasp. But here's the thing, you can't let that emptiness win. I started looking at my local community center's website. I found online classes, virtual groups. It wasn't the same as my old life, but it was a start. This hard truth taught me that finding purpose isn't automatic once you lose a major source of it. It's a conscious battle against the void. So I ask you, if you're considering giving up your keys, or if you already have, what gives your life meaning? Because once you move into this new reality, finding purpose isn't as simple as filling your time. It's about fighting to hold on to the things that make you feel alive. Hard truth number 4, and one that truly blindsided me, was the unexpected physical toll. Before I gave up driving, my daily routine, simple as it was, kept me moving. There was the walk to the car, carrying in the groceries from the trunk, even just the act of getting out and about. Those small, consistent movements were my exercise, my quiet way of staying strong. I remember thinking I'd finally get to relax more once I stopped driving, that it would be a relief. But instead, I found my body started feeling stiffer, weaker, much faster than I ever expected. I thought I was just resting more, but I was actually losing strength faster than I ever expected. My unused exercise mat lies in the corner of my living room, a silent testament to the daily activity that slowly slipped away. Getting up from my favorite armchair now often comes with a slight wince, a quiet complaint from my knees. The reality of this hit me hard during a routine checkup with Dr. Miller. He's a kind man, and he put it to me gently, but his words were a shock. He noticed my activity levels had dropped significantly, and he saw the early signs of muscle loss. "Eleanor," he said, looking at me over his glasses, "your body is designed to move. When you stop using it, you start losing it." It was a truth I hadn't wanted to hear, but it resonated deeply. It was startling how quickly my body, once so reliable, had adapted to an easier way of living, a way that ultimately wasn't easier at all. His warning made me realize this wasn't just about convenience. It was about my long-term health and the rapid decline I was already experiencing. Without the need to drive, my world and my body became more sedentary. Instead of running errands, I'd wait for a delivery. Instead of visiting friends, I'd make a phone call. I found myself spending more time at home, sitting on the sofa, watching television, simply because it felt like the path of least resistance. It was easier not to go out. But that ease came at a cost. The growing stiffness in my joints, the fatigue that settled in even after doing very little. It was all a direct consequence. It's a slippery slope, you see. The less you do, the less you feel like doing. I'd try to stretch, and my muscles would protest, making me wince. The remote control, once just a convenience, became a symbol of my forced inactivity. I knew I couldn't let it continue, so I started fighting back. I began to force myself to take short walks around the block, even on days when my motivation was low. I started doing simple exercises right here in my living room. It wasn't always easy, and some days felt like a monumental effort. But I knew that movement wasn't just about convenience. It was about survival, about holding on to the strength I still had. If you're considering giving up your keys, ask yourself, will you still have the motivation to keep your body strong when everything is set up to make life effortless? Because once you slow down, getting back up isn't as easy as you think. It requires a conscious, daily decision to push yourself. And slowly, I started seeing small victories. Just last week, I managed to carry a small bag of groceries home from the corner store, a bag that would have felt too heavy just a few months ago. That feeling of accomplishment, that quiet pride in my own physical capabilities, it was precious. It reminded me that even without a car, I could still be strong, still be capable. It's not about running marathons. It's about holding on to the strength you have for as long as you can. It's about those small moments when you realize you haven't completely lost yourself, that a part of your independence still thrives, even if it looks a little different now. Hard truth number 5 is perhaps the most personal, the most insidious of them all, the mental shift. It's the slow erosion of your spirit, the loss of spontaneity that defines so much of what it means to feel truly alive. I remember not long after I gave up my keys, an email popped up, an invitation to a last-minute gathering, a friend's impromptu backyard barbecue. My first thought, my immediate gut reaction, used to be, "Oh, wonderful, I'll just hop in the car." But this time, it was different. A cold wave of frustration washed over me as I saw the invitation. How would I get there? Who could I ask? Would it be too much trouble? The joy, the simple, unburdened joy of a spontaneous invitation, was immediately replaced by a mental checklist, a logistical puzzle. Life used to happen spontaneously. Now, every outing feels like a military operation, stripping away that simple pleasure, that freedom to just go. And then there's the whole new world of navigating public transport. My first few bus rides felt like an entirely new challenge. The waiting, the confusion of routes, the feeling of being exposed, of being just another senior needing assistance. I remember fumbling for my pass, feeling the eyes of younger passengers, perhaps not judging, but certainly observing. It's not just the inconvenience of the schedule or the worry of missing your stop. It's the feeling that you've lost a piece of your independence, your privacy, out there in public. When you're used to the private cocoon of your own car, where you control the music, the temperature, the route, stepping onto a crowded bus can feel like a profound surrender. You become acutely aware of your age, your slower movements, your reliance on a system you once bypassed with ease. It's a constant reminder that your world has changed, and you're no longer entirely in charge of your journey. This leads to a subtle but powerful change in how you perceive yourself, and how others perceive you. The weight of social stigma. I've been at gatherings where conversations naturally drift to plans, to trips, to errands, and when it comes to me, there's that inevitable question, asked with a delicate pity, "Oh, you don't drive anymore?" It's rarely meant maliciously, but it lands like a judgment. Suddenly, you feel defined by what you can't do, rather than all the wonderful things you still can. You start feeling less like yourself, Eleanor, and more like just another senior who can't drive. It chips away at your pride, at your sense of competence, and it's a constant, quiet battle to remind yourself that your worth isn't measured in miles per hour. But this isn't a story of just giving up. It's a story of fighting back, of finding new ways to assert that independence. My home office, once a place for bills and paperwork, has become my new hub of connection. I started researching online communities, virtual classes, local senior services that I never knew existed. I'm learning to use ride-sharing apps, exploring community shuttles, even connecting with neighbors who are happy to carpool for shared errands. It's a fight, every day, to keep your mind active, to find new ways to connect. But it's a fight worth having. It's about deciding that the loss of driving won't define my entire existence. It will merely redefine the avenues through which I seek my freedom. And through this fight, I've discovered a new power, the power of acceptance. It's a journey from regret to understanding that true independence isn't solely about the ability to drive a car. It's about inner strength, about adapting, about finding joy and purpose within your current circumstances. It's about making peace with the changes, while still advocating for your own self-reliance and dignity. It's not the independence I had at 60, or even 70, but it's asterisk my independence now. And it's still worth holding on to, still worth cherishing. This quiet acceptance has brought a kind of peace I didn't anticipate, a deeper understanding of what freedom truly means. Looking back, I don't regret growing older, but I do regret not being better prepared for the profound changes that came with giving up my keys. I walked into it thinking it was just about convenience, about safety. What I found instead was a world that slowly, subtly, took away my spontaneity, challenged my dignity, and forced me to redefine my very sense of self. Does that mean you should never give up driving? Not necessarily. But before you make that decision, think carefully about these 5 hard truths. Ask yourself, are you ready to lose the everyday freedoms that make life yours? Are you prepared for the loneliness, the loss of purpose, the physical decline, and the mental shift? If I could do it over, I would have fought harder to maintain my options, explored more alternatives, and truly understood the unseen cost of that decision. And if you're facing this, I hope you take the time to ask yourself, is this truly what's best for me, or is it just what seems easiest right now? Because the life you have today, your routines, your independence, your choices, is worth holding on to for as long as you can. Don't regret waiting until it's too late. Thank you for joining me today. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below and share one thing you learned and how you plan to use it. Your comments give me great motivation and encouragement. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us continue creating content to inform and inspire you. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.